Mass Effect released in 2007 and was BioWare's first attempt at creating their own sci-fi original IP. The team at BioWare had taken everything they'd learned from working on games like Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 and wanted to make their own series. Mass Effect released to commercial and critical acclaim as it boasted an interesting decision-making/morality system. Recently, my brother and I decided that Mass Effect deserved another playthrough to see if it still held up and was worth fondly remembering. The game is 13 years old now, so it might have some issues that we'll run into and have to iron out along the way. For this review, we decided to each take a different path, one of us playing as Paragon, Shepard, and the other as Renegade. So let's see how the game unfolds.
When you start Mass Effect, the first thing the game has you do is create your Shepard, which at the time wasn't that common outside of titles like The Elder Scrolls and some wrestling game. The character creation was actually pretty good for the time, with the only other games that I can remember with better creation modes being The Sims and wrestling. The story of Mass Effect opens up with Shepard aboard the Normandy, the most impressive ship in the Alliance military, getting ready for a routine mission on Eden Prime, a human colony in the Terminus system. As they make their way to Eden Prime, they get a distress signal from the colony where they see a mysterious ship landing. Nihilus, a Turian member of the Spectres, goes on ahead, leaving Shepard and his crew on Eden Prime to investigate. After their first altercation with the enemy and Jenkins dies, rip Jenkins, you run into Ashley, one of your companions. From her, you learn that the enemy attacking the colony are known as the Geth, a race of sentient machines who haven't been seen in 100 years. While you're fighting, Nihilus comes upon another Spectre named Saren, who kills him while his back is turned. After seeing a massive ship that looks like a bug take off, Shepard and crew clear out the Geth and find the Prothean beacon, which is what the Geth were after. Like a dumbass, Kate and Ashley, depending on whether you're female or male Shepard, approaches the unknown artifact, so Shepard throws them out of the way and gets a disturbing vision, then blacks out.
Shepard!
No, don't touch him. It's too dangerous.
When Shepard comes to, they're greeted by Dr. Chakwas and Captain Anderson. Shepard tells them about their vision and Saren. Anderson decides you need to tell the Council of Saren's betrayal. With that, you head to the Citadel. The Citadel is the center point of the galaxy and the gathering hub for multiple alien races. When you confront the Council, they demand evidence of this betrayal. You also meet Adina, the human race's diplomat and all-around scumbag. In Shepard's search for evidence, the player is then given free reign to explore the Citadel, and this is where the game really starts to open up. The gameplay of Mass Effect can be summarized as being a mashup of a third-person shooter and a traditional D&D style RPG. Considering BioWare prior to this made Baldur's Gate 2 and Neverwinter Nights, this makes sense. Shepard has access to 4 gun types: a pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, and a sniper rifle, as well as having powers based on which class you choose. As for the classes, they're a little more varied and give you all sorts of powers, but limit which weapons you can use. The classes include Soldier, Engineer, Adept, Sentinel, Infiltrator, and Vanguard. The Soldier has access to all the weapons available and is the base class if you start up the game in Quick Play. The class I went with was the Vanguard, which matches the biotic powers of the Adept and the Soldier class, giving you the ability to use shotguns. The class my brother chose was Infiltrator, which uses snipers and has access to Engineer abilities. The RPG elements affect everything in the game, as you can gain XP from fighting or from looting boxes. Leveling up doesn't feel the most rewarding though, as you can put your points into everything if you get to a high enough level. The shooting in the game is the worst aspect though, as the guns don't feel good to use. They lack a hit confirm sound, and they can miss even if you have amazing aim. This is due to the RPG aspects kind of getting in the way of the third-person shooter parts. It's a mashup that initially felt clunky but got better the more you played the game. Also, there wasn't a button for melee, so you could accidentally shoot someone you were trying to knock out. A majority of the game doesn't deal with the combat though, as you'll spend most of your time talking to NPCs and deciding whether you want to be nice or a straight-up dick to them. This is where the famous dialogue wheel comes into play. Dialogue options are displayed on this wheel, with Paragon options on the top right and Renegade options on the bottom right, and a somewhat middle ground in the center that will give you points depending on your backstory. This would become a staple of BioWare games, and even some other companies began to borrow the system. The dialogue options are very extreme in some cases. I was trying to go full Renegade, but Shepard just randomly yelling at someone asking a simple question really turned me off to the path. It also makes me wonder if it was realistic to how people would actually react to Shepard, as most would agree to help or ask for your help whether or not you were nice to them. The options felt a little cheap at times, as both Paragon and Renegade options would usually lead to the same outcome in most dialogue situations. It's character building more than its decision making, which is most likely the main point they were trying to achieve, but it wasn't the most easily conveyed.
Another big part of the game are the companions, who for the most part you recruit on the Citadel. Up first is Garrus, a Turian CSEC officer who's done with the politics of CSEC. Then Rex, a grizzled Krogan mercenary who wants to reunite his people. The final ally you meet on the Citadel is Tali, a young Quarian on her pilgrimage away from home. She's the person who gives you the information that exposes Saren. Returning to the Council, you hand over the evidence which mentions the return of the Reapers, which is blown off by the Council. I wonder if that will come back to bite them in the ass. They make Shepard the first team inspector so that you can begin your hunt for Saren, and set you up to do either Paragon or Renegade actions free of the restrictions you'd had prior. We haven't really talked about what Spectres are yet. A Spectre is a special forces member who operates directly under the Council, and as such is given far more freedoms than any other paramilitary group. It works well for the game, as Shepard and in turn the player need all the freedoms they can get in order for the Paragon and Renegade options to really work. After getting the Normandy passed down to you from Captain Anderson, you leave the Citadel, and this is when the game fully opens up, giving you 3 missions you can do in any order, as well as letting you explore the galaxy, which unfortunately is pretty empty. While the game has quite a bit of planets to explore, they all look essentially the same, and most of them don't really offer much in the way of story or even world building, making them just extra content that feels kinda tacked on. The first mission that people usually do is going to rescue your final companion, Liara. It's a pretty basic mission. You go to a lava planet, fight some Geth, a Krogan, and rescue her from a stasis field she locked herself in. You know, for being like one of the smartest characters, she's kinda dumb. Liara is a young Asari scientist who is trying to study the Protheans, a race that went extinct before the game began.
The next mission I did was Nevaria, where you investigate the Geth interest in the corporate research colony there. Upon arriving at the colony, you learn that Benezia, an Asari working under Saren and also the mother of Liara, went up to peak 15, and unfortunately you don't have the clearance to go there. So after looking around, you run into an internal affairs agent named Gianna, who requests Shepard's help uncovering corruption from Annalise, the administrator of the port. Doing some corporate espionage, breaking and entering, Shepard finds the evidence to put Eloise away, and you get access to peak 15. Hopping in your Mako, you drive through some Geth and arrive at the research facility, though it appears that something has gone wrong. The power is out, and there are unknown weird bug creatures all over the place. Fighting your way through bugs and doing one very frustrating puzzle, you restore power to the facility. Further into the facility, you run into the surviving researchers who tell you that they have revived the Rachni, an ancient alien race killed by the Krogan, but they went berserk and infected some of the scientists, like some kind of alien Jurassic Park. You help find a cure. Sometimes I wonder how people in RPGs manage to do anything without help, and they give you access to the area where Benezia is hiding. Confronting Benezia, you get into a firefight and critically injure her. This is where we get our first glimpse at indoctrination, as Benezia mentions Sovereign controlling her mind. We also get our first big decision in the game to kill the Rachni Queen, or don't commit genocide. Both my brother and I saved the Queen, even though I was supposed to kill her because I'm supposed to be going full renegade. It just felt like too evil. She tells you to set off a bomb to kill the Rachni children that have been infected, though. Setting off the bomb, you head back to the Normandy and report to the Council, who are iffy about your decision to save the Rachni Queen.
After reporting to the Council, you get another mission to go to Vermeer to help a Solarian recon team that has information on Saren. You can either do this mission immediately or complete Pharos. For this review, we'll do Pharos first. When you arrive at Pharos to investigate the Geth attack, the leader tells you that the Geth have set up at Exogeny HQ. There's also some side missions that you can do that will affect the survival of the colony, which doesn't really do anything in this game, it more affects later games. Making your way through some tunnels, you come out at another driving section, so you must hop into your trusty and ever-reliable Mako. Before you arrive at Exogeny HQ, you happen upon a group of Exogeny employees, who are hiding out in the garage a short ways away from the HQ. One of them asks you to go save their daughter who is at the HQ. Like always, when you arrive at the HQ, you'll blast your way through some Geth, and save the daughter, who gives you her badge. With the badge, you get some information out of a VI you find. The VI tells you that Exogeny was allowing a plant named the Thorian to infect the people of Zeus Hope. With this information, you rush back to Zeus Hope with a short stop to the employees to de-escalate a tense situation. Get a grenade bomb that knocks out people and return the daughter. Upon arriving back at the colony, you're given the choice of killing the colonist or knocking them unconscious. Of course, being the absolute symbol paragon that I am, I managed to save all the colonists except the leader, but that's a scripted death. Going underneath the colony, you engage Thorian in combat, which consists of you running around, shooting its legs, things, killing Thorian Husk, and this one Asari clone that keeps popping up and hitting me with its stupid fucking biotics. Once you take out the final leg of the Thorian, it shit talks you for a little bit, spits out Shiala, the Asari who was cloning, and dies. Shiala helps you better understand the vision you gained on Eden Prime, and then you're on your way to the next story mission.
Next we head to Vermeer to respond to the distress signal by the Solarian recon. Landing on Vermeer in your Mako, you drive through some Geth on your way to the Solarians. When you make it to the recon team, you learn that Saren is trying to create himself an army of genetically modified Krogan, ones that are immune to the genophage, a biologic weapon used on the Krogan to decrease fertility rates. Remember the morality system we mentioned before? Paragon and Renegade. Based on decisions you make throughout the game, you either get Paragon points or Renegade points from big things like saving all the colonists to just how you talk to people. Those points fill up a bar, and based on how high that bar is, decides whether you have access to certain dialogue options. This scene is the first story scene where that really has an impact, but this scene also highlights the major problem with the morality system. As to get the best outcome or dialogue options, you have to go all in on one or the other, because if you don't, some disastrous things can happen. Here you have to talk down Rex, or Ashley will shoot him. If you've gone all in on Paragon or Renegade, like me and my brother did, you can save him, but say you didn't and your choices were picked situationally and you wind up not having enough of one or the other, Rex dies. You lose a teammate. Thankfully, we do have enough points and Rex is saved and we move on to take out the facility. Oh, and here's some footage of me not having enough points and or constantly accidentally clicking the wrong thing.
This base can't
Rex, please.
no more talk.
I don't think so, friend.
All right, we're done here.
Wait, what? Did you just kill him, Chief?
Better him than the commander.
Before you start the mission, you have to send one of your human companions with the Solarians. Whoever you choose will be unusable for the duration of the mission, which isn't a big deal as I never used either of them. I chose Ashley, but halfway through the facility you come upon a hologram of the Reaper Sovereign, and it tells you a lot. It tells you that they were the ones that built the Citadel and the Master Relays, that they built them so that organic life would develop technologically in the way that they wanted them to, that the Protheans weren't the first civilization that they wiped out. They were just one of the many cycles of organics that the Reapers let get to a certain point in development before coming in and exterminating them. With the final word about how they are inevitable, spooky, the line is cut and you have to move on with the mission. Getting to an open area, the Normandy drops off the bomb. While it's being set up, you get a call from Ashley saying that they are pinned down. So you leave Caden with the bomb and head up to help them get to the rendezvous point. But halfway to the AA guns, you get a call from Caden. The bomb site is under attack as well, and now you must make one of the hardest decisions in the game. Save Ashley or save Caden. And unlike with Rex, there is no way out. No matter what you do, someone is going to die. I usually save Ashley, but this playthrough, I saved Caden. With a sorry and a goodbye to Ashley, you head back to the bomb site, which is overrun by Geth. After killing the Geth, Saren arrives on a floating platform like he's a fucking Green Goblin. You can try to talk him out of working with the Reapers, but it doesn't really work, and you get in a brief boss fight with him before forcing him to retreat. With the bomb about to go off, you escape on the Normandy with it exploding behind you, destroying the facility and killing Ashley. At this point, I think I figured out what my biggest and really only problem with the first Mass Effect story is. It feels incredibly disjointed, with the 4 main missions having barely anything to do with each other. Maybe this is what happens when you let players choose the order in which they do missions, but then again, Dragon Age does the same thing, and I don't remember it feeling like this. Anyway, after you finish Vermeer, the story starts to escalate towards its climax. Being forced to return to the Citadel to report to the Council in person, you tell them that Saren is heading towards the Conduit on Ilos, an old Prothean civilization. After an argument with them over whether they should send you over, they ground the Normandy, which, like the slimy asshole he is, Udina fully supports, stopping your chances of going after Saren momentarily. But then, Captain Anderson contacts you, and tells you that he will help you unground the Normandy. What comes next is one of my favorite scenes in the game. To unground the Normandy, Anderson goes to Udina's office, decks that son of a bitch in the face, and overrides the controls that ground the Normandy. Quickly getting aboard the Normandy, you take off towards Ilos. Before you arrive, if you've literally done any talking to any of the romance options throughout the game, they will approach Shepard and you will be given the chance to enter a relationship with them. The romance system in this game is not very deep. All it takes is talking to them, in my case, Caden, like twice.
Arriving on Ilos, the door is locked, so after running around a bit, you flip some switches and head further in. Right before you hit the final stretch, you're stopped by a barrier heading through the only door you find a Prothean VI who tells you more about the Citadel and the conduit. It turns out the Citadel is a mass relay, the one the Reapers use to get there from deep space, and it's how the Reapers have been able to conquer the other cycles. The Protheans built the conduit to prevent this from happening. The conduit also functions as a mini relay to the Citadel, which is how Saren plans to get there. With this information, you head back out towards the conduit to stop Saren. Unfortunately, when you arrive, you're too late to stop the activation of the conduit, and you need to hurry to use the conduit to get to the Citadel. And so begins your final stretch with your Mako, as when you go through the relay, your Indomitable Mako has been destroyed. Rest in peace, Mako. You were the best vehicle a Spectre could ask for, except when you weren't.
Nelka's my favorite sequence in the game. Arriving in a destroyed Citadel, you have to fight your way through the outside of the Citadel, which is awesome. I love fighting through areas that you've previously visited in non-combat. Mass Effect 3 also has a mission like this, and it's one of the best parts of the game. Making your way to the council meeting room, you find Saren there, and this is the second major use of the Paragon Renegade system. As if you've managed to get either of them high enough, you can convince Saren of his indoctrination, and he shoots himself, cutting the boss battle in half, which is great because the gameplay is not fun. After defeating him, you get a distress call from the Destiny Ascension to help, which leads us into the most important decision of the game. Let the council die, or save them. And because, unlike my brother, I'm not racist, I decided to save the council, but at the cost of losing more alliance ships. You get a really cool scene of the alliance saving the council and bombarding Sovereign with lasers, destroying it, causing its wreckage to land on Shepard. When Anderson arrives, he sees your companions, but not you, and thinks you're dead. But like the badass that you are, you climb out of the wreckage unscathed. For saving the council, they grant the human a seat on the council, and you get to decide who gets that seat.
My ending obviously differed quite a bit from my brother's, as instead of saving the council, I actually let them die, which was a pretty interesting scene as you say, hey, they're coming in, they're gonna help us, I'm reaching out to the Normandy, and then the Normandy cuts all chatter and their ship explodes. After that, you go up, you blow some stuff up, and Shepard saves the day with the same ending where he walks out from behind the thing. It's overly dramatic, but still cool, I guess. And then you get to decide who gets to take over the council, as now humanity will have most control of the Citadel. I also chose Anderson because Undine is a scumbag.
Overall, the story Mass Effect is good. Missions between what I would consider as the main missions, Citadel, Vermar, and Ilos, are interesting, help flesh out the world, and bring up interesting moral decisions. My only complaint, as I've mentioned before, is that all the story missions in this game feel incredibly disjointed. The story doesn't really have a good flow, and sometimes feels like you're just going from mission to mission. Overall, the story Mass Effect is good. The missions between what I would consider as the main ones, the Citadel, Vermar, and Ilos, are interesting, help flesh out the world, and bring up interesting moral decisions. My only complaint, as I've mentioned before, is that all the story missions in the game feel incredibly disjointed. The story doesn't really have a good flow, and sometimes feels like you're just going from mission to mission.
So my final thoughts, overall the original Mass Effect was a good starting point for the series. It would set the standard for the next two games in the franchise and would show off all of the new systems that would become staples of BioWare games. Even if the Paragon and Renegade system didn't feel the most impactful on the story, they were a good start to what eventually would become a much deeper mechanic. I would say that the game isn't actually worth going back to, as everything in this game just gets improved upon in the sequel.
While I do agree the game isn't the most user-friendly, and if you've played these games, you can definitely skip this one. But I would still recommend that new people start here, mainly for the characters, as this is where they start their journeys. And while some of them are hit and miss, like the humans and Liara, the other three, Garrus, Rex, and Tali, are great characters who continue to grow and develop in the sequel. There are also scenes in the second game that won't have the same impact if you haven't built a connection with these characters first.